But first, let's stick with the NBA, Rob. And interesting story or report out there. Brian Windhorst, a noted NBA insider, he had a quote on ESPN radio recently and about KD, Kevin Durant, and Kyrie Irving. Here's what he said. I was talking to some people who were with Team Free Agent. I mean, Team LeBron at All-Star. And they said that Kyrie and KD were like a middle school couple that weekend, eating together, doing drills together at practice. I'll rebound for you. You rebound for me. I'll post you up. You post me up. They were eating together. They went to Miami together after the weekend. A lot of people, Rob, are reading into this with all the rumors we've heard about those two wanting to play together in New York or elsewhere and thinking they're going to team up in the future within the next few months when the offseason starts. What do you take out of this? What's your read on what's going on with those two?
All that I don't know if that we've been hearing this for a long time, even with that stuff. So, I mean, I guess people could read into it that they weren't bickering or whatever. But haven't they always had a relationship?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I guess they're good friends. I know they've been good friends.
That's
for
what
a
I'm
while,
saying.
and
right?
Apparently, Kyrie's been calling him his best friend. I really want to know, look, whether that means anything or not. I love this because my heart's desire, Rob, and not because I'm some big Knicks fan. I'm really not. But I think it would be wonderful for the NBA and its fans if Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving went to New York. Now, if they go to the Clippers or somewhere else together, that'd be good too. But for the league, if those two go to New York, it will be awesome. And I know you're one that feels like when Kevin Durant went to Golden State, he ruined the league because the competitiveness was gone. I mean, they're clearly the best team. I think the seasons have still been exciting, but they've been exciting. Like this year's been good, but it's exciting because what James Harden's doing, Russell Westbrook and Paul George in OKC, LeBron in LA, all the storylines during the regular season. But we know how the story's going to end.
That's my problem with it. I've always said that. It's just that we do know.
If those two go to New York, we don't know how the story's going to end. You will look, Golden State will come back to the pack of elite teams. So in the West, you'll have Golden State, Houston. If LA can get its hands on Anthony Davis, they'll be viable. OKC, Denver. If the Clippers get Kawhi Leonard, they'll be right there. Then in the East, you got Milwaukee. Boston will still be good. Philadelphia. New York will now be a player. Toronto will still probably be good. They play really well without Kawhi. So my point is you'll have anywhere from 7 to 9 or 10 teams that fans feel like and the teams feel like they could possibly win a championship or get to the finals. I think it'd be tremendous for the NBA. I hope it happens.
I'm torn. I get where you are from where it is now, and would it make it a little more interesting to find out what's happening? I agree with that. I do. I just wonder as we keep moving forward, is it just a matter of it being now? Just hear me out on this one. If they become just say that Kyrie and KD go to the Knicks and they get the first overall pick and they make the Anthony Davis trade. Is it just the same thing? Just now that we have it East Coast where they have this great team, or no? We don't know exactly, and I agree with you, Chris. It wouldn't be automatic that the Warriors are winning. It wouldn't be like what we've known to see the last 4 going on 5 years in a row, right? So from that standpoint, it would be good for the league because we've all seen this story. We get the storylines, but we know the endings, and I think that sometimes it does hurt the league when everybody really knows. It would take major injuries for the Warriors not to be in the finals or something. Because I still believe, even with Houston and all the other good teams in the West, I still believe they're gonna win.
Yeah, your thought is interesting about, let's say KD and Kyrie do go to New York and they get Anthony Davis.
Right,
I'm not sure whether they make
right.
that trade.
But I'm just
Zion.
saying, right.
But if they did, I think it wouldn't be the same as Golden State because they wouldn't have won it. But I think it'd be more like Miami when LeBron went there with Wade and Bosh.
Oh, okay, yeah. Okay, that's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Yeah, which wouldn't be quite as bad. I mean, obviously they'd be the most talented group in the league, at least those three. But they'd have to put it together. They'd have to mesh. I think chemistry, it'd be an experiment because which one of those three would step back? Ideally, it'd be Kyrie, but that's not his game. As a point guard, you'd want him to do that, but that's not really the way he plays.
Right.
And when you have a big three, offensively, one of them has to step back. Anthony Davis could do it because he's a great defensive player. He could play more of a Kevin Garnett role when he was in Boston with Pierce and Allen. But after 7 years of being the focal point of the offense, I don't know that that's in him right now to do that.
We saw Chris Bosh do it.
Well, he was the third best player.
No, I know.
Clearly.
Right.
And AD is
he would be the third best player out of those guys. Really?
He's better than Kyrie, I'd say.
Oh, I think Kyrie comes in with more cachet.
Kyrie's got the pedigree because of the championship.
Well, that's what I'm saying, the pedigree.
AD is a better all-around player. But
he's done it. He's come up big in big games. He averaged 28 points
against point guards. He should be the one to step back.
No, I hear what you're saying. Right. I hear what you're saying.
Game.
I just think Kyrie would come in with a little more cachet because he's coming with the hardware.
I give you that. He's done it on the big stage. The interesting thing too, though, is that not everybody wants to play or thinks you should play with a great friend, or even in business. That you should go into business because that can challenge or maybe even in some cases mess up your relationship. But one thing with Kyrie and KD. If you look at their career, and I don't know if you'll like this, but it's the truth, they have followed LeBron James. They both have their media company. They're both trying to become, especially Durant, business moguls. You look at his new show on ESPN Plus, The Boardroom. He's following in the footsteps of LeBron James, which is fine. Kyrie, even the way he's kind of handled his teammates, the young guys, and he's kind of separated himself a little bit. For better or worse, he kind of probably followed what he saw from LeBron in Cleveland. And so what did LeBron do? He was best pals with Dwayne Wade. They play together. He's always talked about wanting to play with Carmelo Anthony, was trying to get him to the Lakers. Always talked about wanting to play for Chris Paul. You talked about in the past, he wanted to get a trade for Paul to the Cavaliers. So maybe if these two continue to follow in LeBron's footsteps, maybe they will want to team up with each other because they're best friends. So that's another interesting angle to this.
Yeah, no doubt. But this story and their union has been out there. I mean, it's amazing how long we've been talking about it because it's been out there for a long time, right?
Yeah, I mean, you saw the pictures of them
talking.
I don't think it was the All-Star weekend.
Right, but I'm just saying this whole notion.
The level of their relationship, how close they actually are, I think that's come out in the past few months.
I agree with that, but I mean just the idea, like this is not shocking if it does happen because it has been out there for a while. It'll be interesting to see how it all plays out and how it works out for the NBA, but definitely you want to mix it up. You want to give some other teams an opportunity. That's what it's about. And I get it. Good teams are put together sometimes, and it happens. And you tip your cap, right? It all works out. That's how Golden State. They drafted correctly. They got a diamond in the rough and Draymond Green in the second round. You know what I mean? The guys that they drafted turned out to be stars. That doesn't always happen. We see drafts all the time, Chris, and guys, they don't pan out. You could be a bad team for 3 or 4 years and get top picks, and none of them pan out.
Well, and to have the biggest city in the world, or in the country, I should say, New York, be viable again, it would be great. And for these two, look, obviously their legacies are set. KD certainly is a first ballot Hall of Famer. I think Kyrie, even if he were to get hurt, he still maybe would get in the Hall of Fame. But, he's clearly on that path. But you talk about sealing your legacy, Rob, and you and I both worked in the New York market. Everything there is magnified, even to this day. If you do well in New York, it is magnified and becomes marvelous. If you do poorly in New York, it becomes the worst thing in the world.
No doubt about it. No doubt.
If they were to lead the Knicks to their first championship since 1973.
Which is just amazing when you just talk. I know they've been to the championship a couple times, but 1970, they went in what, 94, and they went in
99.
99.
That's it. And that's been, what, 20 years since they were even there.
Yep.
You think it was big when LeBron James led Cleveland to his first major title in 52 years? Imagine if those two did it in New York. Now, it wouldn't be easy, and maybe they wouldn't do it. And I also think, Rob, because I've said this before, I was told that those two are indeed weighing the media and the impact of the New York media, because both of them are sensitive. They both had their tete-a-tetes with the media. And I'm told that they're taking that into consideration as to whether or not they indeed want to play in New York. I don't know how heavily they're weighing it. I'm not saying it would stop them from going, but I'm told it's a consideration. And, that's something interesting as well.
Yeah, that is interesting. It would be interesting if you were, the media is national now. So,
right.
Wherever
Tabloid journalism is not just relegated to New York.
Exactly.
Anymore. It's all over the world.
Wherever you go, there's going to be stuff and reporters, and they go to ESPN and Bleacher Report, and they're going to send reporters to New York to follow them anyway. Do you know what I'm saying? So that can't be your reason.
You're right. I mean, and look, they're having their issues in Boston and the Bay Area already. And I'll say this, Rob, and I don't know if you agree with me or not, but I think they would get a 2-year honeymoon in New York. Like, if they go to New York, the people are going to be so excited to be relevant again that they won't have to win a championship right away. They get to the playoffs, which I'm sure they would, maybe win a round or two, or, they'd be capable of getting further. And then the second year, you go deep, maybe conference finals, maybe to the finals. I don't think it would be until that third year. Like, if they fail for a third straight year to win a championship or at least get close, I think that's when the real heat and pressure would come on KD and Kyrie, assuming they played well. Now, if they go there and they're bust and they're 8th seed or something, that's a whole nother story. But assuming they play well and go relatively far, I think the heat would be off them for a few years.
No, I agree. I don't think it would be like, they got to win year one, otherwise it's a failure.
Like, it wouldn't be like LeBron. Now, granted, LeBron didn't make the playoffs.
Well, that's the part, right? That's where LeBron got the heat. If they could have just made the playoffs, then people would have expected that was what was going to happen, right? That's why LeBron has gotten the brunt, or as much as he's ever gotten before, I think, because
certainly as much since 2011 when he lost to Dallas. Yeah.
But because people just expected or automatically assumed that they would at least make the playoffs.
KD and Kyrie together, what would it do for the NBA? I think it'd be a huge shot in the arm. Let's see what the callers think. 877-99 on Fox, 877-996-6369.
Let's start with Mustafa in New Jersey. You're on the Odd Couple, Fox Sports Radio. What's up, Mustafa?
Yo, what's up, fellas, man? I don't like Kyrie and KD in New York, man. Like, they're great players and all, but they're too soft and too fragile, too sensitive. I need, like, DeMarcus Cousins or De'Aaron Fox. I need cats that's going to take your head off, man.
Wait a minute. DeMarcus Cousins, neither one of them has ever been to the playoffs.
I know.
That's what you want. And Cousins had run-ins with the media in Sacramento.
They go hard.
Yeah, I need you to go hard and win.
You don't think that the Knicks would have a chance to win if they brought those two guys? I don't care how sensitive they are. They could ball out.
Right.
They may make the playoffs, but they won't win it. Not with
you said DeMarcus Cousins will win it.
You don't think, really, is Boogie winning it and De'Aaron Fox?
Yo, I like them because they're younger and get them
younger.
A chance,
you ain't got time, Mustafa. The Knicks haven't won since 1973. Stop, Chris. Come on.
Cousins isn't that young. Cousins in like his 8th, 9th
Thanks
season,
for the call.
something like that.
Can you give me a stop it, please?
Yeah, that's stop it.
Thank you. Come on, stop it with that. Justin in Indianapolis, you're on the Odd Couple, Fox Sports Radio. What you got?
Hey, guys. Thanks for taking the call.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say Kyrie and KD in the same city together, they're two personalities that are ball hungry. I think it would either work wonderfully, and they would make the playoffs without a doubt, or it's going to be an absolute disaster because they're going to clash. And they can be buddy-buddy off the court all they want, but when they're both wanting to score 30-plus points in the NBA, I just don't see it happening. But either way, I'm here for the ride, man.
See, I do think their games will work together. I get where you're coming from. They're both scorers. But number one, I think KD can play with anybody. His style of play, he can catch and shoot. He can play in a movement offense, or he can play ISO ball. He's fit in, for the most part, swimmingly up there in Golden State. Sometimes he bucks it, wants to go ISO a bit, but for the most part, he's fit in. And he was able to play well with Russell Westbrook. Now, people can talk about, oh, that was a failure, it didn't work. They got to the finals, and they had the great Golden State Warriors down 3-1 in the conference finals and should have closed them out. Most of the years they didn't go as far as they should have were because either Westbrook or Durant was injured. I think Kyrie is kind of right in the middle of the Warriors style and Russell Westbrook style. So I think they would figure it out and be able to play together.
I do too. McKinney in Ohio, you're on the Odd Couple, Fox Sports Radio. What's up, McKinney?
Got to be you, man. It's your world. I'm just paying rent in it for the next few months.
There you go, my man.
That you ain't got a compliment like that in a long time, Rob Parker.
All right, man. You know, dry time going on 75 listening to you guys in the evening. It is it's a thrill to listen to a fresh voice in Sports Talk Radio.
Man, we appreciate that. That's so nice.
We appreciate that, yes.
Hey, so here I'm going to give you, you know, I know you got your Darren Ravels and all these guys that are insiders, but I want to give you McKinney's inside version of how.
Did we lose your cell? McKinney, call back. We lost your cell. He's about to make his point.
Right.
And it did
I'm
not work out.
a little bit intrigued.
Yeah, I want to hear. John in North Carolina, you're on the Odd Couple, Fox Sports Radio. What you got, John?
Oh, how you doing, guys? Great show.
Thank you.
All right. I think I like both players. I do. I like both players. But you guys have constantly spoken to the fact that they're pretty soft. And the other guy said he didn't think because he play hard. I think they'll play hard, but I don't know about that 2-year honeymoon Chris is talking about. I don't think they're going to get that. And why did they get rid of Porzingis and not have KD, Porzingis, and Kyrie?
Well, they wouldn't have had the cap room.
Exactly. That opened up the cap room to sign two stars, and Porzingis didn't want to play there. I don't want anybody who doesn't want to play for my team. Once you tell me you don't want to be there, there's no way you're going to give your all.
I grant you that, but the two of them have not shown that. I don't think they've shown the kind of individuality that it takes to just take over in a city like New York. They're going to get hit. When you think Bryce Harper's getting hit in Philadelphia for going 0 for 10 in the first two games, you watch what they're going to get.
He didn't go 0 for 10. He had a home run.
What was he, 0 for 5?
Yeah, he had a home run in Game 2 and Game 3. So
they were coming at him. It was a slow start.
No, they booed him after his second strikeout of the game. Yes, I got that.
Those two cities are not going to give people a break.
No, you're right. You're right. Philadelphia, New York, Boston. Those are tough places to play, right, Chris? We know that.
Yeah, I think the fans. Now, I'm not saying they wouldn't boo him ever, but I think the fans would kind of. They're starving. I mean, they rarely make.
I go with Rob and what you guys are saying about this. The city does need a boost. They need a jump. And I want it as much for them as anybody, but I'm just looking at the two. And I don't know. I just don't think it'll work out as well as you guys are thinking it's going to work out. I think it's going to be a little tough for them.
I would not recommend to either of them that they go to New York by themselves. I think that'd be a disaster. That'd be an absolute disaster.
Just because of the first 5. They got it. We never talk about Livingston coming off the bench. Andres Iguodala. That backup is what makes that team superior.
No, I get that. You're right. You need depth.
Yeah, but you also need stars, and the Knicks don't have that. We're looking at a team that's won 14 games. I mean, is it 14, Chris? I think it's 14.
Something like that.
Right, but I'm just saying, I mean, for people to be like trying to poo-poo the idea of those two guys going is crazy. I think we could squeeze McKinney in. Is he back? All right, McKinney in Ohio. You're on the Odd Couple, Fox Sports Radio. Go ahead, bud.
For that bad cell service.
So, go ahead.
the way that I think that it's going to work out, first of all, they're not going to New York with those taxes and work for James Dolan. That's not going to happen.
Wait, you're saying they're not going to go there because of Dolan?
Dolan and New York's tax problems. The tax is too high. You can save more money. And the way that you save more money and to take more advantage of the new business situations that these gentlemen are trying to get into, I think that they go to team up with the Greek Freak and that new $150 million.
Stop, please. You're not going to Milwaukee.
McKinney.
Come on, McKinney. With that, they're not going to New York for the taxes. They're going to Milwaukee. Yeah, okay. Stop.
Come on. And look, Dolan, we know he's got his issues, Rob. But look, LeBron James went back to Cleveland to play for Dan Gilbert.
For God's sake.
As bad as Dolan is, I don't think he's going to stop them from going to New York if they really want to go there.
And especially with all we talked about it, Chris. He got the office he opened up in New York,
right.
KD.
Durant, yep.
He's got other
Kyrie
stuff.
Starting a media company.
Exactly. He's from New Jersey.
Yep.
Grew up as a Nets and Knicks fan, probably a Nets fan, I think more. But he grew up in the area. He knows New York. Come on, don't act like he's foreign.
He is an NBA champion, a Fox Sports NBA analyst, and a studio analyst for the Oklahoma City Thunder and the New Orleans Pelicans. Nobody better to talk to right now than Antonio Daniels. AD, what's happening, man?
What's happening?
Fellas, what's going on?
We're good. And that literally is our question. What is happening with the Oklahoma City Thunder? They've lost 14 of their last 21. They are limping into the playoffs. What's going on?
Well, for me, I think it's a number of things. The schedule obviously got a lot tougher. You know, they had one of the easier schedules in the league the first half of the season, and then they had the most difficult schedule in the league the second half of the season. So obviously the schedule caught up, and some of the things that you got away with early in the season, you can't get away with when you start playing better competition and some of the better teams. And also right now, the biggest thing that I see out of this team is the lack of sense of urgency. That's my biggest beef with this team right now. The lack of sense of urgency and the lack of consistency is the issues with the Oklahoma City Thunder right now, heading into the playoffs, which you don't want. Because this time of the year is when you want to be peaking and playing your best basketball.
What happened to Paul George as well? I mean, he was for a minute, people were saying, hey, you know, he's an MVP. He was in the MVP conversation without question.
Right.
And what's happened to him? Why has he cooled off?
Well, he cooled off because he's injured. He's not 100%, and it's obvious. He's having shoulder soreness and shoulder issues coming out of the All-Star break. He missed the first, I believe, 3 games coming from the All-Star break. So, and it's very up and down. Sometimes he looks like himself, and other times he doesn't really look like himself. And honestly, if you're injured and you're not 100%, obviously we all know that. You're not going to be at your best. And right now, Paul George is not playing this game at 100%.
Antonio, I'm a fan of Russell Westbrook. I've defended him and his triple-doubles, and I think he'll be an icon 30 years from now. People will be talking about his triple-double seasons. But one thing that correlates with their fall is earlier in the year when they were playing well, Westbrook was averaging like 19 shots a game, 21 points a game, 4 3-point attempts a game. Now, in this 7-14 stretch, he's averaging 22 shots a game, 27 points, but 8 threes a game. It seems like he's gotten out of that mentality he had earlier in the year where I really thought he was running the offense fairly well and passing the ball like I hadn't really seen him do it. You know, I used to think Westbrook would look for his offense, and then when he couldn't shoot, he'd pass it and get assists that way for the most part. Then earlier this year, I thought he was going out of his way, even passing up shots to get his teammates open looks like a true point guard. It seems like he's reverted back to kind of the old Westbrook, which is still good, but might not be best for this team in terms of winning. Is that accurate or not?
I think somewhat, but I think a lot of it has to do with Paul George's health. And if Paul George is not healthy, you know, like we just talked about a minute ago, when Paul George is not there, then Russell Westbrook almost does have to revert back to the Russell Westbrook post Kevin Durant.
Right.
Because if you take Paul George out of the equation, now you're struggling with guys that can create their own shot. So now everything has to go through Russell Westbrook. And I'm not the only one, if you watch a lot of these games, that realizes that Paul George is not completely healthy. And I think Russ can realize that as well. And on those games where Paul George is not healthy, I'm not saying this is right. I'm not saying this is true. But maybe sometimes Russ feels like if Paul George is not healthy, that offensive responsibility on his shoulders is a little bit more than usual. So it's not like you're getting that Paul George that's giving you 40 points and 35 points where you can say, you know what, this guy is going. Or Dennis Schroeder, who's giving you 30 points off the bench, who has really struggled since All-Star break as well. So two of the biggest offensive weapons, which allowed Russell to kind of take a back seat and say, you know what, all right, you got it going, I'm gonna chill out. You got it going, I'm going to chill out. Post All-Star break, both of those guys, both Paul George and Dennis Schroeder, have both struggled post All-Star break. So I think if you're Russell Westbrook and you see that, it's almost like, okay, well, if those two guys aren't going, I got to pick my game up a little bit more. That's going to bring some more offensive aggressiveness from him.
It's The Odd Couple, Fox Sports Radio. Antonio Daniels, of course, NBA champion and Fox Sports NBA analyst, the studio analyst for the Thunder and Pelicans. And if you want to reach him on Twitter, it's at ADaniels33. Give me a team out west that you like where they are as we get closer to starting the playoffs. Is there any team that's just playing, playing well and you like them?
It's crazy. I like the way Houston is playing, but I'm not sure how that's really going to translate. And the thing is, I think if there's a team in the Western Conference that can really challenge and maybe even beat the Golden State Warriors, it is the Houston Rockets. And the reason I say that is because they don't fear Golden State. You know, if you talk to anybody in that locker room, they will tell you, you know what, if Chris Paul did not get injured last year, we had Golden State beat. Golden State has beat San Antonio. Golden State, I'm talking about in the playoffs. They have beat San Antonio in the playoffs. They have beat Oklahoma City in the playoffs. And they did beat Houston last year, but they beat a short-handed Houston Rockets team. So I think what Houston has going for them that some of these other teams don't is that internal clock that says, you know what, man, we should have beat them last year and we had the opportunity. So I don't think they fear Golden State like maybe some of the other teams in the West do.
Antonio, the MVP voting is coming up. It's due April 12th. I just got my ballot today. I'm leaning toward Giannis in Milwaukee, and I'm not going to be mad if it's Harden because obviously he's been great. But you said you're leaning with Giannis as well. Tell me why you're going with him over Harden.
So you know what's weird? Anytime you talk about the MVP discussion, if somebody says they're going with Harden, we automatically assume that they're discrediting Giannis Antetokounmpo. Right. If somebody says they're going with Giannis, we automatically assume that they're shortening James Harden. And listen, the reason I'm going with Giannis Antetokounmpo is not because James Harden has been brilliant, because he has. He hasn't been brilliant. He has been fantastic all year long. 30 games or 30-plus, I get all that. But the reason I'm going with Giannis is, one, he's on the best team record-wise in the NBA. That carries weight. Two, he touches every statistical category. So I'm talking about impactful. Points, rebounds, assists, blocks, steals, all of them across the board. That's not to say James Harden doesn't do his thing. He had a 50-point triple-double a couple days ago. I completely understand it. I understand what he did earlier in the year when Houston was shorthanded without Chris Paul. I grasped all that. But for me, with Giannis being the best player, the most impactful player on the best team in the NBA record-wise, that's what sets him apart from James Harden, in my opinion.
He's a Sports Illustrated senior writer, one of the most plugged-in guys in the association, none other than Chris Mannix. Chris, welcome to The Odd Couple.
What's up, Chris?
He's not here yet. Okay.
All right, that would be I was talking to you. I wasn't talking to Mannix. Right. What's up, Chris?
We will bring him in.
Warm it up,
any
Chris.
Moment. Is he here now?
Yes.
All right, they're yelling in my ear. He is here. Chris, what's happening?
What's happening, guys?
Doing good. You?
I can't complain. I'm in my umpteenth hotel this month, so,
Hey, get those Marriott points, man. Don't complain.
Right. Yeah.
You won't be complaining this summer. Someday. When you're on the beach at a Marriott resort or something like
Chris,
that.
you know what I did? I saved all my points when I was a beat writer in the beginning of my career, And then when I got married, we went to Hawaii and Japan, mostly on points. I saved all of them for like 11 years.
Yeah, Jack McCallum once, who was one of my early, mentors at SI. Like he always, every year, he always say he never actually took a vacation day from SI because, there are breaks in the schedule that are organic. And every year he just disappeared to Hawaii, used all his Marriott points, all his miles to get there, take his whole family. So that's kind of the way to go to develop that tradition.
No doubt.
No question. All right, Chris, we know you're really plugged in with the Celtics. And look, all season long, through all the issues with Kyrie, with the younger players, everything, the poor play, the slumps, I have given the Celtics the benefit of the doubt that they had a chance still to come out of the East. I got to admit, over the last 3 weeks or so, I've just given up the ghost. I don't think they've got it in them. They're just not playing good basketball, in my view. And I think they're definitely going down in the second round to the Milwaukee Bucks. I think they'll get past Indiana, but I think they'll go out in the second round. Am I wrong? Do you still see a reason to think this team can challenge for the conference title?
I don't know that you're wrong. I think the window might be open a little more. I'm in Miami now with the Celtics, and I'll be following them to Indiana. I'm working on something on them. And, look, the problems are well documented. We know them. Their belief, though, from Danny Ainge on down, is that when they get to the postseason and they're healthy, and they're pretty much healthy right now, some bumps, that are keeping a guy out here and a guy out there, but no significant injuries. They get to the playoffs and they're healthy. They are still the most talented team in the conference. And they're of the belief that when they get to the playoffs, most of the stuff they've been dealing with all season, the jealousy over, playing time, young guys wanting bigger roles, all that stuff will kind of wash away in the pursuit of a larger goal. And look, you're seeing it to a degree already happen. Jaylen Brown, really since January 1st has been great. I mean, he's been one of their top players. He's really embraced that role. And, Gordon Hayward, over the last 6 weeks, has had his best stretch of the season. He shot, I think it was 37% in the month of December. He was up to 57% in the month of March. So he's been playing extremely good basketball of late. So I don't know. I mean, the Bucks, I think, are going to have their own problems, their injuries notwithstanding. I mean, can you really play Brook Lopez 30 minutes in a playoff series? I think that's going to be a challenge for them because they play him a lot of minutes, and that's going to be a tough matchup. I think the Celtics actually match up pretty well against Milwaukee. It's Toronto. If I were Boston, that I'd be a little nervous about.
What about the NBA playoffs as a whole? I mean, TV ratings this year are down, especially TNT had. I don't know if people just have, because it's a foregone conclusion, because LeBron James was on the West Coast. I don't know what the reason was. And I know some of the regionals as well were down this year. Will the playoffs ratings be good, bad without LeBron this year? Or maybe it opens up for other people to think that maybe their team has a chance. I don't know.
Oh, they'll take a hit. I mean, there's no question. I mean, you can't go into a postseason and have, 16 to 20 games featuring LeBron James and, take him out of that equation and not expect some kind of drop-off. There'll be a pretty significant drop-off. And, look, I spent some time. I did a one-on-one with Adam Silver this week for this TV show I'm doing for SITV. And, we were talking a little bit about that and, just the way the TV ratings have gone down. And, look, I don't know that there's a huge concern in the NBA about the ratings. Remember, was it 2 years ago? NFL ratings went down.
No,
and
I know.
Everyone was panicking. So if it's, the next year and the year after that, they continue to trend downward, then it's a problem. But for 1 year, I don't know. I mean, the Celtics, they were down. They were supposed to be the team that propped everything up. They were just an unlikable bunch.
Yeah, their ratings are down. I know, right?
Yeah, their local ratings are down. They're just not likable. So I think you swallow it this year and you say, all right, whatever. Well, we can attribute it to a lot of things. Next year, if you have the same problems, that's when there's cause for concern.
Chris, this is a two-part question. In Boston, we don't know what Kyrie Irving's going to do, but
yes,
hypothetically, if he leaves, is Danny Ainge going to give up this great offer, starting with Jason Tatum, to try to get Anthony Davis? And the second part of the question is, what do you think are the chances of Anthony Davis ending up with the Lakers?
Well, the answer to the first part is no. If Kyrie decides to walk, I don't believe the Celtics would offer a Jason Tatum-centric package for Anthony Davis. I think what they do is just continue down this path of younger players that was successful the last couple of years, headlined by Tatum and Rozier. They'd probably bring back Rozier and go that route. I think Irving and Davis are kind of a package deal, to the point where if Kyrie says he's re-signing, it doesn't matter if Anthony Davis, knocks over the Bill Russell statue in Boston. It's not going to matter. Like they'll trade for him because they don't care. Because Danny Ainge and you guys have covered him. He just doesn't care. Like you're not going to scare Danny Ainge ever. He doesn't. I'm not saying he's the perfect GM because he's made plenty of mistakes, but he's not going to be scared off by anything. He's. We were talking earlier this week. I mean, this is a guy that, whenever he talks about what Kyrie's been saying, Danny's a guy that played on, teams with Larry Bird and Kevin McHale and Robert Parrish, guys that said a lot of stuff to each other. So the stuff that Kyrie's saying really doesn't bother him all that much. That doesn't mean he's 100% sure that Kyrie's coming back. It just means he's not going to be distracted by all the outside noise when it comes to Kyrie Irving.
It's The Odd Couple, Fox Sports Radio. Chris Mannix is our guest, Sports Illustrated senior writer, of course. And if you want to hit him up on Twitter, it's at SI Chris Mannix. Where are you on Houston, and can they dethrone the Golden State Warriors this year? Everybody seems to believe, I don't believe it, that they were going to win if Chris Paul would have stayed healthy. But are they the team to knock out the Warriors finally?
I think they're probably the same level of threat this year that they were last year, and that has less to do with Harden and Paul, who are both great still, but the midseason acquisitions, the sort of thrift store pickups they made with Kenneth Faried and Austin Rivers, guys are now giving them like 25, 30 minutes per game. I mean, where would this team be without those two players? They have been able to replace what they had with Luke Mbamute and Trevor Ariza. Not the same things exactly, but the kind of rotation minutes that they were able to get. Look, the question of Golden State always comes down to their lone vulnerability, which is DeMarcus Cousins. And if you're going to play Cousins 25-plus minutes in a playoff game, is he an asset or a liability? I mean, Houston has seen both sides of it, right? I mean, Houston, in a matchup about a month and a half ago, they exploited Cousins all over the floor. I was watching them and calling the Boston game where the Celtics attacked him for like 11 straight possessions. On the flip side, he played Houston again, less than a month ago, and he was great in that game. Passing, taking charges, blocking shots. So, what is Cousins in a series like that against the Houston Rockets? That's the great unknown to me in a series like that.
Chris, I'm going to go back to my previous question, part 2. What do you think are the Lakers' chances of getting Anthony Davis? And if they can't get him, what do you see being a viable plan B or C for them this summer?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Look, the Lakers, people around the Lakers and around LeBron James have made some noise about they still believe Anthony Davis is coming to L.A. and a trade will get worked out. I still believe that you can't outbid Boston. And I guess if the Lakers and LeBron's people believe that Kyrie's gone, maybe that's why they think. Because if Boston's out of the picture, that does put the Lakers in a pretty good position with their willingness to kind of go all in to get him and their desperation to have Anthony Davis in that mix with LeBron next year. But if he doesn't come, Chris, I don't know that there's a great plan B. I guess if you really want to overpay for Jimmy Butler and go a full 4 years max, which I'm not sure that Philly is going to be willing to do, I guess that's something. But at some point, you're going to be paying for past production with Jimmy Butler. I don't think that guys like Kevin Durant and Tobias Harris and Kawhi Leonard, I don't think that they're putting the Lakers at the top of their list. So I think there's a dangerously high possibility that the core of this Laker team with a new coach could be back in training camp next year.
And here's my point with these guys, like if you're New Orleans, Brandon Ingram's coming off a serious injury, right? He's supposed to be okay.
Yeah, that doesn't get talked about enough either. That injury, that's something people have been mentioning to me across the league. That a blood clot there.
Yes.
That's going to take some serious investigation before you make a deal.
Before you make a deal with him, Lonzo Ball hasn't been able to stay healthy his first 2 years. I mean, when I look at what you get for him, there's a lot of stuff there that I'd be like, I don't know if that's going to be my best deal, or I might look elsewhere.
Yeah, I mean, look, the Knicks are going to be in the equation as well. You know, if they wind up with the first or second pick, and they're willing to deal it because they believe that they're going to land Durant and Kyrie or whatever. So there are going to be some options on the table. All I'm saying is that the Lakers' chances increase tenfold if Kyrie walks.
Now,
they just do, because that's going to take Boston out of the mix with a big offer.
Chris and I have talked about this. If you were the Knicks and you knew you were getting KD and Kyrie, and then you got the first overall pick, would you trade him to New Orleans for Anthony Davis to give yourself a big three, or would you keep Zion?
No, I'd trade him. And I say that understanding full well that in 5 years or 6 years that I'm going to look in the mirror and wonder what I was doing. But if you get – it's not like Durant's 24 or
right.
Kyrie's 22. You got to maximize your window. And Kyrie's, look, he's been healthy this year, but he's had 3 knee surgeries in the last 3.5 years. So you got to be wary of that. Kevin Durant's going to be over 30 when he signs this new contract. You've got to look at that window as being a 3 or 4 year window. And
Absolutely.
Anthony Davis maximizes that window.
Chris, I assume you're one of the voters for the postseason awards for the league. Where are you leaning with? I think this is probably in my 20 years or so of voting, this is about the closest MVP race I can remember. I'm leaning Giannis, though. Where are you at as far as Harden and Giannis?
Yeah, I'm leaning Giannis. There's a bunch of reasons. And what James Harden has done is spectacular. And in the playoffs, I might want Kawhi Leonard over anybody else that's in the playoffs because Kawhi, every time he steps on the floor, believes wholeheartedly he's the best player on the floor. But Giannis, for 2 reasons. One, the Bucks have been in first place in the East for a pretty long time now. And the second reason, which I think is more significant, is that the difference between Giannis and the gap between Giannis and the second best player in his team is significantly wider than the gap between any of the other top MVP candidates and the second best player on their team, whether it's Kawhi, Paul George, James Harden, go down the list. Chris Middleton's a good player, but is he a true second option on a great team?
Right.
Giannis has been doing this kind of all season long, not by himself, but as the lone superstar in that group. So I give him a lot of credit for that. So that's why I'm leaning Giannis. We'll probably go in that direction in a couple of weeks.
Chris, I got one quick question from boxing before you go. 30 seconds we got left. Who's the best welterweight in the world, Errol Spence Jr. or Terrence Crawford?
I
don't know. Maybe you think somebody else.
I lean to Terrence Crawford, but I don't like these two. Neither one of them can ever say that they're the number one at 147 without fighting each other. They can do this dance and make as much money as they can fighting nobodies, but until they fight each other, that spot is vacant heretofore.
Are they just trying to, get themselves to a stature where they can make the most money when they do fight, or are they avoiding each other?
No, fighters don't avoid each other, but the politics of boxing is idiotic. And the big difference between boxing and UFC just lost Conor McGregor, right? Presumably, at least until he comes back. UFC lost Ronda Rousey. UFC believes that they can build up stars, every time one leaves. Boxing is so afraid of their stars losing some of their shine that they'll do nothing to put it at risk. That's why their promoters are more to blame. But all that being said, fighters don't work for promoters. Fighters don't work for Al Heyman or Bob Arum. They work for themselves. So if Terrence Crawford walked into Bob Arum's office tomorrow and said, make me an Errol Spence fighter, don't make me any, and Errol Spence said the same thing, they'd be able to get something done. So don't let the fighters skate on this stuff either.
All right, cool. Chris, great stuff,
thank you, man. Appreciate
we
you.
appreciate the knowledge.
Anytime, guys.
All right, brother. Later.